That's 818-610-8088, TaheeboTeaClub.com.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, that morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station. AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness, and we're balancing out all the bad news out there that everybody's talking about, except us, because you can get it from there. But if you want to tune into good news about people, about topics, about solutions, about life, and how to make yourself happy 88% of the time, then you know where to keep it tuned for great not only guests, and every time that extended intro comes on, my heart just misses Marianne from Gilligan's Island, Dawn Wells. But I know she's loving us and laughing with us from the other side. We come from love, we go back to love, and I just wanted to give that quick love shout out to her. So lucky that I did get to go for Thanksgiving and so on. And today, it is Thursday because you see that good looking mug right beside me on camera. His name is James Hawthorne. He is an actor, a fitness expert, instructor, coach, coffee drinker, straight talker. And we're both single at the moment, so it's always a fun time. Welcome back to the studio, James Hawthorne. Hold it, give me a second, wait for it. It's right here.
And the artificial in-studio audience went wild. Thank you for your compliments on my mug. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, nice mug and mug.
Yes,
very good. It's gonna be a creative hour. Well, we're just delighted you're here. We're gonna have breakfast real quick in the morning. You know the drill. We want to start with gratitude, end the day with appreciation of ourselves. That way, you're sandwiching your day in the most positive way. So I gave my first gratitude already with Dawn Wells. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm grateful that I have a really good friend who travels all the time, and whenever he's passing through, he always makes it a point to reach out and be like, "Hey, what are you doing today?" So it's, I never know where in the world he's going to be. He can fly for free, and I love that he makes it a point to reach out, and we always sneak in a lunch or ocean swim or something like that when he's in town.
Oh, that's great. I am grateful that I just booked my third speaking engagement in Beijing and Shanghai as I take off for my Chinese roots. And we'll see if the country censorship will be open to a Chinese copy or a Chinese distribution of 8 Ways to Happiness. So it kind of goes against. Yeah, it kind of goes against some of the traditional Chinese, don't air your dirty laundry, don't talk about mental health because it really doesn't matter or doesn't exist. But I understand that self-help books are really popular right now. So that's a good sign because mine is self-help on steroids. So we'll see what happens. But I'm grateful for that.
Good. Oh boy, I haven't had enough coffee yet. It just shot right out. I'm grateful that I just happened to have. It was quiet for a minute, and now I have a whole bunch of auditions, and I'm really excited about them because there's some really fun projects. And when you're auditioning for cool stuff, it makes the process, the climb, so much more rewarding and enjoyable.
So I'm going to wiggle my fingers and set the intention that every role that you desire and that is a good match all the way through, you get.
Thank you very much. That would be great.
And my intentions today are super powerful because I got my Wordle in 3 guesses.
Oh, wow. Good on you.
Yeah. So I'm going to So it's going to come true and you're going to go, wow, do that again.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a teacher in high school. He would complete the New York Times crossword puzzle every morning before he even came into school to teach. Now that's wicked smart right there. Wicked smart.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good way to get your brain in action. But I do it because I'm competitive and I have to beat my girlfriend's score.
Good.
I'm
Stick it
up
to
three
him.
on her. Sorry, Emery. Anyways, let's go to the bottom of the bun, which is what do I like about myself? And the reason why we do this is because I believe it is the foundation of good mental health. Instead of reaching for something outside of yourself to feel better, if you can approve of yourself, it's golden. Because frankly, my dear, if you can't like yourself, how the fork do you expect anybody else to like you? So that's why we do the appreciation to work that muscle. And James didn't like doing this when we first started, but now he does. So there you go.
Yes. I had to beat down the entrance into the jungle of self affirmation because of the neural pathway of self flagellation.
Oh,
I know this is a dating and sex show, but it's not what you think it is. It's a little vocabulary test for those at home. The neural pathway for self flagellation was more beaten down than the one for self affirmation.
not anymore.
No. One thing that I like is I was just out to dinner with a friend of mine who's going to Spain for 2.5 weeks, and I'm so excited for him. He hasn't been out of the country in a really long time. And I said, "Oh, what's your travel itinerary?" Because I'm a bit of an aviation geek, and I'm like, "You're on Iberia. Like, well, what are you flying to Chicago?" He's like, "Iberia the whole way." I said, "No, you're not. You're actually on American." And so the point of it is I like that I always look for opportunities to be helpful. And I was like, you better not go to Tom Bradley at LAX. You got to go to Terminal 405. You're on an American flight to Chicago. It's code-shared. Da, da, da. So my first one, if you don't mind, I'm going to go right into the second because both are connected. The first one is I always look for opportunities to try to help people because a lot of times it's a very light lift to help people, and it feels great, and people really seem to appreciate it, and it's not that hard. So I like that I look for opportunities to do that. It's always kind of on the back burner for me. The second one is I like that I can retain a lot of information. Mostly useless, occasionally useful. Like, actually, an international airline will not fly a domestic flight from LA to Chicago. You will be on a code-share partner. So make sure you go to Terminal 4 or 5 and not Tom Bradley. Same thing comes in handy when I'm working with my personal training clients. I love that I can retain all the stuff that I've learned over 15 plus years of doing it because it allows me to be extra helpful to people in the moment, help them get the most out of their sessions. So those two things actually go hand in hand more often than I realized until this very moment.
Fantastic. And if you go through Chicago, make sure you stop at Garrett's Popcorn. Pick me up a cheese popcorn and caramel popcorn to bring back, and I will give you something. My favorite popcorn in the world. I appreciate that I take risks. Sometimes I have to ask for things that are a little uncomfortable or volunteer for things that are a little scary, and I do it anyways. And today I get onboarded as a result of one of those risk things. And I'm going to be teaching back at UCLA in a new course called Leadership and Happiness, which I don't know any other course that covers both of those because we usually think leaders, lonely at the top, all of that kind of thing. Is it possible for leaders to be happy? So I get to teach that this fall at UCLA. So I'm excited about that. You can actually sign up if it's a more of an executive level course, but happy to have you in there. All right, let's close off breakfast. Thank you for joining us this morning. I promise that if you do this for 28 consecutive days, on the show or not, you will develop the ability to be the boss of your day. And I hope you take up that challenge here on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. And this is our very special Thursday series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorne.
Thank you for joining us. And now for the topic of the day. I got to choose it this week because I woke up with this. We are both dating, and we talk about non-matches, but I don't think we've hit rejection as a topic on the head. I'm not talking about that head, but the REJECT.
Yeah.
Oh
The
man,
evil
I
step
can't
cousin
wait
of
to.
Aretha Franklin's Respect.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
those two are also related. Which is one thing we could touch on today is how does one reject with respect?
Oh,
Because
very
you're dealing with other
good.
people's feelings.
Very good. Yeah, you're going to get it here today. So, um, let's start with wordplay. I say rejection. You say,
I say acceptance.
okay, now you do it.
Something related to rejection or rejection
Well,
itself.
just, yeah, you go, you say rejection, and I say,
I say rejection, and you say.
heck no. Avoid at all costs.
Eh, I say ghosting, and you say rejection.
Yeah. I say rejection and I say painful. I think I already did the avoidance. F you, who do you think you are and how dare you? And I thought it was going to be a match. And why are you rejecting me? You're like way below me. Putting the moose on the table already, first thing
Look
in the
at you!
morning, my
You're
Canadian
such a
version of.
you're being a bit of a status queen today. I'm just gonna call you out. You put the moose on there. This status thing. I mean, it's a compatibility thing. It doesn't matter whether you're more successful than somebody else or not. Maybe they weren't feeling those compatibility chemistry vibes, which is that ethereal world in which we just don't fully understand intellectually, but we feel in our tummy.
But I'm being real, James.
You are. I
When
like that.
you
This is
are
storytelling.
rejected, you do that whole fight or flight, right?
Yep.
So it's one of those threats to you. It doesn't feel good. So either I'm going to put you down, right? Or I'm going to like tuck the tail between my legs, cry my eyes out, go and say, I'm going to live on a desert island by myself because this feels so bad that I don't ever want to feel it again.
There's an in between, and I'm guilty of it. When you said rejection and I said acceptance, it was a lesson that I had to learn because rather I didn't want to deal with the pain of rejection. So instead, I would fight, but not fight like I will squash you. You are beneath me. But fight in terms of oh, I can fix it. I can fix this. I can change the things or modify the things that aren't working for you. I can make it work. In other words, I was a fixer, and that was a lack of acceptance. So I fought, but not with vengeance. I fought with a fix-it attitude, and that wasn't healthy at all. In a way, I was failing to put the moose on the table and not accepting that it just wasn't working. And what I've had to learn in life is that it's supposed to be easy, especially in the first like 6 months. At least it's supposed to be easy the first couple months in the honeymoon phase. There shouldn't be really any major, huge problems in those first few months. And stop trying to be the salmon that swims upstream to spawn, because once they do that, they die. So go with the flow is the lesson I had to learn. And I had to do some work in figuring out what it is in my ego that would not accept rejection. And then also some reframing work. Simply saying that, you know what? It doesn't matter why. What other people think of me is none of my business. And if they don't feel the compatibility and the roles were reversed, well, I would want to do the same thing and just be like, hey, good luck to you. I think you're great, but I'm not feeling what I need to feel. Good luck.
Yeah, and that just all of that centers around Don Miguel Ruiz, who I'm very fortunate to call a friend, who wrote the amazing book. If you haven't read it already, The Four Agreements, fundamental life book. And one of his agreements is don't take it personally. But, come on. How can you not take it personally when someone says you're too old, too fat, too stupid, too shy, too like all the things that are fundamentally who you are, and they are saying you are not a match because I want someone who, and I'll tell on myself and throw myself under the bus. It is not. I don't even know what to say, which is why I don't like Tinder, because at least on Bumble, it'll say, where you live and what you do and education. Like it's you have to answer those things. And that way, if I am looking for a match that is comparable, not I'm better than you education wise, but just the same kinds of experience, and knowing that my first marriage, last marriage, potentially, because I do everything once, marriage, divorce. There was such a disparity, both in terms of profession and education. This time I want to, try to have more. And so when I do on Tinder see, I swipe because they're cute. And then I ask the question, um, you know, where did you go to school or what's your profession? And they'll say, oh, I didn't go to college and um, let's see, I work I work in the meat department, okay, of a grocery store. And how do you nicely, right, say, so I just don't say anything because there's I haven't figured out how to say we're not a match without them saying, well, why aren't we a match kind of thing, right? And if I say I'm looking for someone who is more of a match to my education and profession, that's insulting, right? And I don't want to insult and be mean and all of that. So if you have a better recommendation for me, because I always struggle because I want to say something, and I'm sure they're wonderful people, but knowing that I tried it that way and it didn't work. So do I say anything, or is the kindest thing just to unmatch?
Well, first of all, if you haven't actually gone on the date, I think you don't nearly owe them as much. That is hilarious coffee mug with the udder sticking out of the bottom. That's fantastic. Quick aside, the udders out.
This is from my daughter's UC Davis.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, UC Davis is that's their agriculture, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. I was gonna say that if don't sweat it too much because if you haven't met the person, I feel like the standard has become for people to ghost if you haven't met. Because it's an app and it's so easy to match on match swipe. So I wouldn't sweat it. If you want to do the courtesy of letting somebody know, I think the second piece is you're not responsible for their feelings. You're only responsible for your actions. So if you're just honest with them and you just say, listen, I do this kind of stuff for a career. I don't think we're compatible career wise, and that's something that's very important to me. You've just, given them a reason out of respect. And if they want to get all in a huff about it, they can. I have a friend who said there is no nice way to reject somebody, but there is a respectful way to do it. And if you're somebody that, as a principal, doesn't want to ghost because you don't want to be ghosted, there, I don't think there's anything wrong with letting them know. And it might sting a little bit, but at the end of the day, once that person calms down, if they choose to get into a big huff about why you rejected them, they might go, well, at least she didn't ghost me.
Yeah. Well, okay, so many directions. I don't know if there's any way to not make rejection sting, at least at the point of contact. So I think that for me is an important happy 88 tool that if you are rejected, ghosted, someone doesn't return your call, someone doesn't return your text, someone stands you up, someone, doesn't want to spend time with you, you can say, ouch, that doesn't feel good. And then the second thing would be to say, It's a good thing that I know now instead of later after investing more time. So, like, that's that silver lining, finding, reframing the best case scenario. And then three, is there something in me? Is this happening so much that it would be useful to find out? Like, my formula is, if three different people give you the same feedback three
Yeah.
times, then it is you, not them. So then you would want to find out if there's something that, if I had lipstick on my chin or on my teeth, or there's toilet paper hanging out of my dress, then I want to know. So it's that balance there, right? On, is it you or is it me? I think that's useful. And then
Yeah.
you new awareness now that trying to make something work so early is you being really codependent. Honestly, I think that's one of the reasons, because I know, well, I'm projecting, but for me, I picked difficult relationships because I grew up with a difficult relationship and that's what I knew. And it's very common for people who've had childhood trauma to pick people who have that same difficult to love and difficult to give love, because you're comfortable with it.
That's
So
so
I
true
would
for.
ask you,
Well,
yeah,
that's so
I
true
mean,
for our audience, I think, to hone in on, because, coming from a psych background myself in school and everything, I mean, our subconscious, runs 90% of the show, and it works on patterns. And we stick with that which we're familiar with at the subconscious level, even if it's not good for us. A lot of time, and the best example of this is, a lot of times people will look at domestic violence and say, why do you keep going back to him, or why do you keep going back if they keep beating you up? And sometimes some of the victims that are very self-aware will go, because at least I know it's less scary than going out there and dealing with what I don't know. And the ones that can't articulate that, studies have, there's ways to kind of mine at what the
mhm.
subconscious is doing. And they find that that's really the reason. And so if we know that about ourselves, we've then brought a little piece of what's in the dark into the light, and then we can consciously, choose other than. Because I think there's a lot of people that their dating life is so colored by their trauma from the past that it's worth doing the work to of introspection, talking it out with really trusted friends, or therapy. The other thing that you mentioned is, the first question you asked was, how do you not take rejection personally? And I think you sort of gave the answer, where if you're hearing the same thing many times over, it's worth taking a look within,
It is
especially if it's
personal.
something that you can control, like a behavioral thing. But if it's, you're too old, well, tough cookies. I mean, it is what it is. But if it's something that you can control, and it's something that's not fundamental to the fiber of your being, if it's a behavior that's easily modified, or something that upon introspection, you go, you know what? I don't particularly like that about myself, too. These people are right. Sometimes they can help you identify areas for self improvement that are good for you completely outside of the dating realm. So I think it's knowing when to do the work and look within, and when to say, well, that's not anything I can change, or that's not something I want to change.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a growth opportunity. If you just tuned in here, wondering what's going on in the studio today, you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah. Number one in the IE Talk, and 25 years strong as a station. The show is 12 years strong and 629 consecutive weeks on the air. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor, and just keep it here, because James has got a lot to say about rejection.
Welcome to Balanced Tai Chi Gong. My name is Dr. Marissa Pei. For the next 28 minutes, we will be slow dancing with the universe in a moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. Just follow the sound of my voice and move with me as I guide you through this ancient wisdom through New Thought practice. As a corporate psychologist, I created this practice in response to my life and those of my clients. We were professional, high achievement-oriented, multitasking control freaks and exhausted. No matter how many successes, it was never enough. That, coupled with a painful life experience, led me on a quest to find another way to live and back to my Chinese roots. If you practice regularly, I can promise you that it will impact all health vortexes, body, mind, spirit, soul. You will be in a place of balance and inner peace the way we were created. 谢谢. Be my partner.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pei.
And we're back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, NBC News Radio, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, my show Central, my YouTube TV channel, where if you free subscribe, you'll get an alert every weekday morning to tune in for more hope and happiness. And today you can tell by the good-looking guy that is in my studio that it is Thursday in our very popular series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorne. Thank you for the compliment, but I insist it's just the T-shirt and the good-looking coffee mug. That is.
Okie dokie. And the show sponsor today, which you just saw, is giving away Asian Oprah Giveaway, a free download of that moving meditation that promotes inner peace one breath at a time. We're always here trying to up-level your happiness to 88%. Why not 100%? Because if you're 100% happy, you're dead. So 88% is a reflection of a homophone. 8 is a lucky number in Chinese. Double 8. Double good fortune. That's what we want you to be. And so I'm giving away that first person to drmarissa.tv. drmarissa.life. I used to have that one. Will get a free download of that moving meditation worth $20. And James Hawthorne is also offering a James non-Asian Oprah giveaway.
Who knows? It could be. I haven't done my, me in 23 yet. My ancestry.com. Who
There
knows?
you go.
Who knows what's hiding in here?
What are you giving away?
I am giving away Dodgers tickets. So if you ask me about 1 to 2 weeks prior to the game that you'd like to attend, you can message us, via the YouTube channel or on social media. I'm personally at Action Man Fitness on Instagram, all one word. And you just say Dodgers and the date. I will put in the request, and more often than not, I'm able to get either 2 or 4 tickets, good tickets, to the game. So that is a giveaway for all of you. Make you guys happy watching the most exciting team in sports.
Fantastic. And I'm going to ask for the Texas Rangers, where they're going to give away a Yoshinobu Yakamoto bobblehead giveaway.
Yes.
Thursday, June 13th. All right. So I'm
go.
going to get James's non-Asian Oprah giveaway for today. But actually, too, I was going to say, James, you could give a free consult for your fitness coaching.
Absolutely. That we'll also put that with whatever your pleasure is. I'm happy to acquiesce to that as well. Spend 60 to 90 minutes with you, depending on how much you'd like to go over.
No, we'll just leave it at 30 minutes. We don't want to give away the farm. So you get a taste of James's philosophy, and certainly he'll look at some realistic goals for you. How's that?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm your marketing manager right now.
Marketing manage me on that.
Yeah. And how do people get in touch with you?
Once again, through the best way is through Instagram. Reach out to me, message me at Action Man Fitness on Instagram.
Fantastic. All right, back to the topic at hand. We're talking about rejection. How we love rejection. Sarcasm is another service I offer. No, we are talking about the mechanics of rejection and maybe how to not be chronically impacted by the negative nature of rejection. There's a thesis paper right there.
The top of the hour, we covered a lot about how you and I both have dealt with it, how we feel with it. When it comes to administering rejection, the only thing we touched on is how to unmatch on the apps. But what if you've been on a few dates and you realize, you know what, I was hoping it would work. I'm just not feeling what I need to feel. Then it's a little bit more difficult because now you've spent time, there's more of an investment. How do you feel is the best way to let the other person down and how to administer that dose of rejection without it being a lethal dose, so to speak?
Just ghost them. Just kidding. Just kidding. That is the
That is
easier
the
way.
easy way out.
That is the easier way. I have been guilty of it. I'll admit to that. But I do say this. I mean, I haven't been on a second date, so it's just at the end of the first date when they say, would you like to go out again? And I'll say, sure, right? Because I just don't want to do it in person because it's just so awkward. So then after that, I will thank them, right, on a text, and I'll say thank you so much. Dinner was fabulous. The food was amazing. It was really nice to get to know you, but I don't think that there's a match for us. So good luck, and I wish you very well. Or I wish you the best. So that's how I do it, and thank goodness most have come back with either nothing or thanks for letting me know.
Right. I think that's a really good way. I mean, you're not ghosting. You're being respectful of the other person, and you're taking care of yourself by not putting yourself in an awkward or uncomfortable situation. I used to have the hardest time because since I would fight.
How hard?
Yeah, it depends on the day. Depends on whether I ate my raw oysters that day or not. But it's interesting being able to accept rejection and being able to do it. For me, at least, went hand in hand. Used to have a very difficult time accepting it, and I would try to circumvent the feelings of rejection by fighting to try to make it work. Similarly, when administering rejection, I had a really tough time expressing it, and sometimes I would kind of let it go, draw out to the other person who was like, are you into me? Because it feels like you might not be. And that wasn't good, because then I'm in the awkward situation of having to be like, no. So younger me started there. Now I'm at a place where, like you, I like the approach of doing it over text or a phone call after a date that just didn't feel quite right, especially if we've been on a few dates. And just being, I do the compliment sandwich a bit, especially if there are things that I genuinely like about the person. I'll say, hey, I really enjoyed this about you. I'm just not feeling that electricity that I like to feel to continue dating. Wish you all the best. And sometimes if the person's really awesome, and I've attempted this before, and someone said, oh, you're such a fool for trying it. A few people called me a fool. I said, look, honestly, I know how it sounds, but if you would like to be friends, I'm totally down to do that and hang out as friends, platonically. And that sometimes people get in a big huff, like, oh, good enough to be your friend, but not to date you. And I'm like, well, that's what I can offer. And I do enjoy your company. I just don't feel. And, I have had people do a back and forth with me, and that's what I feel like it gets unhealthy when a rejection turns into a negotiation, where someone goes, well, then what is your type? And I feel like going,
Oh, yeah.
none of your business, not you.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
especially not now.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't say I'm just not feeling the chemistry, and why I just say there's just not a match, because that is an insult if you think you're hot and attractive, right? It does sound like a little bit of an attack, which is why I wouldn't say I'm just not feeling the chemistry, you know? So anyways, that's my reaction. That would cut that would not um give the runway possibility of getting into that debate. When I just close it and just say there's just not a match, no reason, then I can get out of it. I can extricate more cleanly.
You say what
And
you
I'm
need to
just
say
gonna welcome,
without.
welcome
Yeah.
Gerald Wade into the studio, into our cashew gallery. I will correct you. I am not a Mrs. I probably will never be a Mrs. again, because, like I said before, I do everything once, marriage, divorce. I am a Dr. Pay, if you're going to use Pay, or Dr. Marissa. And to answer your question, yes, I'm on every weekday morning, and it's actually 9 to 10, not at 11. And I also do not do weekends. Please don't take my weekends away from me. Well, you've joined the live right now. So welcome to the Cashew Gallery. We're talking about rejection. So if you have comments specifically related to the topic, please do put it in the chat, and we'll do our best to give you our 8 cents worth. Now, we've talked about the mechanics of rejection. We've talked about how do we respectfully, or, don't be brutally honest in your rejection. Let's talk about not just relationships, but I just had this idea of talking about rejection at work, because this is something, as an organizational psychologist, I am coaching. I have not met one client organization that does not have individuals who are so frustrated because they've been there a long time, and every time they go up for a promotion or any kind of job movement, and they're rejected because they don't make it. And I think organizations don't understand that you are fostering and creating a culture in the organization of dead people working, because you can only take rejection so many times and be told it's not personal, or you don't have this and that, and then you get this and that and you still don't get the job. You're creating a hostile work environment. You're creating an apathetic work environment. So I wanted just to address that. That is what my PhD is in: organizational psychology, human dynamics at work. So, before I give my 8 cents worth on the topic, speak to that for me. You've been in corporate, I think.
Yeah, I was in corporate for about 2.5 years before coming out here for a Fortune 250, and I would certainly talk to coworkers and things about that were turned down for raises or promotions, and the sense I get is corporations will give you just enough to not quit. And then what that does is it creates an environment where the employee does just enough to not get fired. So it really seems like a tremendous waste of potential and performance. And I think companies that act in that way, right, create employees that do the bare minimum. And then you look at the performance of the company, it's gonna suffer. I think it's so important to value your good people and cut the dead weight. If people aren't performing and you have passed them up a couple times for a promotion or a raise, it behooves you to sit there and say, well, why have I? Can I get a better candidate? Put that HR department to work and go ahead and find somebody that's a better fit for the company. So that way you're bringing in people that you can value appropriately, employees, and you have employees that talk to each other around the water cooler. They're all like, yeah, I just had a great performance review, and I got a raise, or I got promoted. And then it's a thing where everybody's climbing together. That would be my armchair psychology, since I don't have a PhD in that or even a degree in that. I feel like, from my own personal experience, that would foster a more productive environment for both parties, company and employee.
However, and I'll put the moose on the table again, my Canadian version of the elephant in the room, by the very nature of the way organizations are structured this way, if you think about it, you have 100 candidates going for one level up. You're going to have 99 rejections. There's no way around it. So even if you're good, you may not get that. So it's the actual systemic structure of an organization that creates this culture of dis-ease or disappointment or the impact of rejection. So when I work with organizations, I know that people aren't necessarily big fans of flat organizations, but there's a middle ground, right? Where is there a way to, some people don't want to move up, right? Some people are happy where they are. There should be some kind of acknowledgement for that as well. But our whole American business BS belief systems supports that up and out, right? Or you, if you're not wanting to go up, there's something wrong with you, and that also becomes a problem. And now it's becoming a business show. But I did want to just put that out there, because I think the whole human reaction to rejection at all levels, personal, intimate, relationship, work, all of that, there's something to be said about having a structure that supports however you are. So on an intimate level, it would almost be like, I'm exaggerating, but I'm not a match for you, right? Thank you, we had a great time, but we're not a match. But I do have a friend.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I have a personal training client, and was climbing very quickly in his organization, but due to factors completely outside of his control, big financial things with the company, merger, acquisition, stuff like that, he had kind of gone as high as he was going to go. But he wasn't satisfied with that, so he decided to take a risk. He said, I'm leaving the comfort and stability of a big organization and company, and I'm going to go join a startup where I can be a founding partner. Because he had built that credibility, and he decided to, you know, put his cards, like to play his hand, throw the dice on the table and say, I'm going for it. And he bet on himself. And so that's always an option. And to make an analogy to romantic dating and rejection, if you find yourself in a pattern of things not working out with partners, and you're hearing some of the same reasons for rejection, or you're rejecting people for the same reasons over and over, change is uncomfortable because our subconscious is wired to resist it. But if you can find the courage to forge ahead, you can, create a new path, try new things. You might surprise yourself with what you discover when you go out there and you start dating different people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you just tuned in, what are you talking about? We're talking about rejection today. That is the topic for Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorne.
And we're looking at the ways in which rejection help and hurt us. I think James was really good at always trying to find the growth in things that happen to us. And certainly there is some value in rejection, looking at yourself, also, working that muscle of not taking it personally. We talked about Don Miguel Ruiz. If you have any comments or opinions about the topic of rejection, we're happy to entertain those. And Gerald, you do ask some technical questions in the chat, and I would appreciate if you stayed on the topic a little bit more, and then later on, you can certainly email the station and we can answer some of your technical stuff. I don't want to get sidetracked from the topic. So, how do we avoid rejection? I had this thought when you were talking before in dating. So this is one of those personal questions as well, because I've heard people say, well, I had a very mean comment from my own brother, my not Michael Bernard Beckwith brother, but my bio brother, when I was dating before I got married, and he said the reason why the dates aren't working out, or you being rejected, or there's no follow through, or whatever, is because you are aiming too high, and that you're picking people who you are not good enough for. He didn't say exactly that, but that was the inference, that I'm not as attractive as they are. And of course, it's not going to work. Now, that was a mean thing. And to give my bio brother a break, he's not a touchy feely kind of guy, right?
Mhm.
So he kind of says it raw, right? But I do want to look at that comment as a way to discuss. If I've known guys too who they ask everybody out, regardless of who they are. They could be a celebrity, and they feel like I got nothing to lose. I'm going to ask everybody out, and rejection doesn't bother me at all. But you never know, who's gonna say yes. So I just gave you a whole pile there.
Well, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I had a friend tell me something similar, but I interpreted it differently. I had a girlfriend of mine say, James, if you're going to find a partner, your standards shouldn't be so high. And I didn't take that personally as saying that I wasn't worthy or capable of finding somebody that, is a 9 or a 10 or whatever. I took that as just saying, well, I vehemently disagree. I'd rather be single than settle. I don't need to be in a relationship. I would like that. I would like to have that to elevate my experience, of life. It doesn't complete me, but it can elevate it. But I'd rather be single and keep on dating and keep on dealing with all this crapola of rejection and all the other things that make dating tough rather than settling. Because if I'm going to be in a relationship, there's going to be, I'm going to have to rearrange my life a bit. And with the right partner, I'm willing to do that. But I don't want to do that if it's not somebody that I'm crazy about. And as it is, people have a tough time keeping the flame going when they've been in a long-term relationship or marriage. So one topic that we didn't hit on today that we could maybe on another week is rejection in committed relationships and marriage. One thing I hear all the time is people complaining about a lack of physical touch, or he never wants to spend time with me or do any of the things I want to do. And that starts to feel very much like rejection when you're sharing the same four walls, and roof with somebody. The other thing that we didn't touch on today, by the way, just making a little list of things that we could come back to, are BS rejections. When someone gives you a reason and you're like, oh, come on. Or when you've been accused of giving a BS reason. At times, it's like, is it? But there's all iterations of it's not you, it's me. Some of them I think are legit. Some of them are total BS. And learning how to figure out when someone is blowing sunshine up your butt versus actually giving you a real it's not you, it's me, I think can be helpful in diagnosing when there's work to do on yourself and when there's not. So those are a couple things that might be fun, I think, to revisit. But you asked the question, how do you avoid rejection? And maybe one of my closing thoughts today would be, if you want the juice, it's going to squeeze. So maybe it's a fool's errand to try to avoid it and just say, look, that's collateral damage when you're out there dating. That's what it is to open your heart and put yourself out there. There's a risk of that, and you accept it.
Yeah, yeah. I have a fun. Our sound engineer today made a funny comment in the private chat. He says it's always me. Very funny, Rick. You're taking it on. But and we also got the final runway countdown. So it sounds like you just gave your final word, and you can certainly add to that. Final word on rejection for me is uh, that it's up to me whether I take something personal or not. It is totally like no one can make me feel bad. I either choose to feel bad about what was said or not. And that's one of the most powerful things that I've learned just in this last probably 3 or 4 years as being a student, a real avid student of the law of attraction is I choose. Nobody has that kind of influence on me unless I allow them to. So it is not your job to make me feel not rejected. It is not your job to make me feel happy. It is my job to decide whether I want to feel bad about what you've said or feel okay in the sense of I'll look at it. But if the shoe doesn't fit, if the glove doesn't fit, then quit yourself.
You sound like our good old President W from back in the day.
It's so important because we see rejection or insults as something that makes you a certain way. You made me feel bad. You made me angry. You made me. And we grow up like that because your parents do that because they don't know better. They teach you, you made me so mad, or you make me so happy if you. And I think that allows us the trap of thinking that we don't own our responses and
Well,
own our rejection.
it allows us the trap of failing to take responsibility for our feelings. And then also, I think, taking responsibility for your feelings about another person and, saying, you know what, I am going to perform this rejection, but I'm going to do it respectfully. So I think when it comes to rejection, we talk a lot about responsibility and respect. And if you employ those two ways of handling it, I think it's a lot less painful for both you and the other party.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a great summary synopsis. And we do have lots of ways we can jump off this one for next week. Thank you for joining us talking about rejection. Really, it's our job to golden rule, right? Reject as you would like to be rejected, or better yet, platinum rule, which is reject in a way that you think they're not going to take it really badly, knowing that everybody takes it a little bit bad and it's okay. Because, of course, we all, as my bonus dad, 94 years, will say, we all want to be wanted, needed, and loved. And if there's anything that doesn't smack of that, it does bother us. But then we can manage that. Thank you so much for joining us today. James and I have had a great time. I'm speaking on your behalf, talking
Correct.
about topic, and it's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Tomorrow is the Hollywood Rebel Report with my new Friday co-host, Ricky Rebel.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 10:50 a.m. The station that leaves no listener
See you
behind.
tomorrow.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
and Rick, outro, please.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. The jury in Trump's hush money trial is back at work. Judge Juan Merchan is reading the jury some of the witness testimony from ex-Trump lawyer Michael Cohen and former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker.